What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing our Saints 7-round NFL mock draft. I'm super excited for this. I hope you guys are too. If you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe below. My face of my board is completely transparent. It is completely honest. It is not predictive. And so just because the player is in my top 32 doesn't mean I think they're going top 32. And that happens every year. So feel free to be patient. If you guys do want to understand why, I post clips of them with all 22 grades over on X. So feel free to follow me over there. It's free. You can end up just looking at that, and I post the clips that support my conclusions. But if you guys do want to support the show, go to UnderDog Fantasy and if you guys want to send me $10, just put it over there with the code HAILMARY. They send me 60. Just saying. And so let's get into this. Let's have a great time. And we're going to be referencing our lads throughout this just so we have an updated view. I mean, yes, the ads are annoying. We've had some people recommend some different browsers, but I'm just going to be honest. We can deal with an ad or two, okay? And we're going to be reviewing, of course, the roster. And so let's see with Kellen Moore at the helm. And I'm pretty sure we just ended up seeing Brandon Staley get signed as the DC. Let's see how we can handle this. So the picks have been put in for the top of the draft. There's always going to be something wonky in here. Surprisingly, nothing too insane. I mean, this is Trev's board, so Jody Barron's going to be going high, which is going to bless us with some better picks. But there's a couple of players here that is the point of conversation, right? It's Genty and it's Warren. Those are the two that people are going to be focusing the most on. Remember, this is an offensive head coach who's going to be given a little bit more leeway because things aren't doing too well anyways. And this is a Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator that's now your head coach. So he's going to want to get his guys. Ashton Genty is Boise State. Also, alma mater of Kellen Moore is Boise State. So he is he ended up going to school there. Could absolutely see him looking and saying, hey, I can end up having a 1-2 punch and get my own version of Saquon Barkley. I don't think that's as realistic as maybe I've been led to believe, because when you do look at the contract, Alvin Kamara is not the cheapest guy on planet Earth. And so when you're investing that much capital, because remember, pick 9, that's an expensive contract as well. That's still, if I'm not mistaken, a top 15 to top 10 running back contract. So you'll have 2 of those. That's a little bit of mismanagement, especially with the cap situation. So where I think we need to focus on the most is tight end, because Kellen Moore loves his tight ends. Like, he is a tight end dude. And so I think that Tyler Warren is literally right up his alley. I think this is the best pick possible, is what we're going to go with. But again, I do want for us to review the depth chart super quickly as I end up saying that, because I mean, I think areas of growth, quarterback, you can absolutely look at it. I mean, I don't think it's going to be horrible to look and try to address it. But with Rattler, there's the high ceiling developmental guy. Hayner, there's the low ceiling, high floor backup that is just a really good locker room dude. So I don't really think that in this class you're going to be moving the needle too much. If I'm not mistaken as well, Nussmeier is on the, I think, is he the OC? I'm tripping. But Garrett Nussmeier, who's at LSU, his dad is on the coaching staff. So I think they're kind of gearing up for the future right there. I would absolutely love it. But I mean, you could end up bringing in another running back into the mix. I just think, again, you're not gaining too much ground towards winning a Super Bowl by bringing on Genty the way that you could if you end up fixing that tight end room. Okay. Loved Allen Holker with the 2 one-handed catches during the combine. Taysom Hill, of course, has a special place in everyone's heart, but a lot of people have a lot of faith in Foster Moreau. He's not a tight end 1 to me. And if he is to you, I respect that, but he just is not to me. I love him. It is what it is. I do think right tackle is absolutely addressable in this class. Not at pick number 9, but it is addressable because I don't think Trevor Penning has polished up as the pass protector that what we think he should be. And I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. But on top of that, we don't need to look exactly at right tackle because Tali Fawaga is a native right tackle and moved to left tackle so that you guys can end up working with Trevor Penning apparently. So I would say if we do find a good left tackle in this draft, don't be afraid. Do not be afraid to address it. Interior offensive line, we could then move Penning into there, and maybe that'll solve a lot of the issues and a lot of the headaches. Wide receiver, we should be looking for someone to be more of an X-style receiver here. Chris Olave with the health concerns, obviously with all the concussions, is a little bit frustrating, but the talent when he's on the field is undeniable. So really high potential offense with a couple pieces put in to the equation. which is a good sign. And so that's what we're going to be doing in this mock draft. Defensively, of course, you can end up getting some defensive front help. Brandon Staley, I would be starting to look at a little bit more of the bigger, solid ends at that point. But defensive interior, I want to get one other guy into the mix to be next to Brian Brzee. And then, potentially you could look at another will linebacker, underrated need, but, at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be as pressing. Corner-wise, I absolutely think that we can end up addressing corner. Alontae Taylor is not necessarily the same guy, in my opinion, that he was when we all thought he was the creme de la creme. He's still very solid, in my opinion. I'm not giving up hope on him. But a true boundary 2 still is in the equation, and of course, you can get some extra safety help for the future. Long-winded way, because I spent way too much time on that. I'm saying we're going to be going Tyler Warren at pick number 9. At pick number 40, again, we can look at the offensive tackles here. I think Ursery's awesome, and honestly, I think he'd be a really good get for this team. You can place him at left tackle, Tolly back at right at his native position from Oregon State, and you'd end up having, this is the style of offensive tackle that both fits what Kellen Moore has had over in Philly, which, you look at Ursery, relatively Mailata style. Coming into the NFL, Mailata was an even rawer version of Ursery, which, yes, you don't have Jeff Stoutland, but if I'm not mistaken, Jeff Stoutland's understudy is your offensive line coach. So, really good get. But I am kind of going to play the board here, and I see Anthony Belton, who I adore, and I'm going to be taking him at 71, FYI. I'm going to be doing something that I don't do very often, which is poach my top players for you. Because I love you guys. I'm wearing a Marshawn Lattimore jersey right now, and hopefully you guys respect that. It was actually, I got it for a great deal, and honestly, I wanted to get a Saints jersey because I was going to New Orleans as well, and I've been a couple of times. It's a fun city to hang out for a short period of time. The Bayou, incredible, by the way. If you guys haven't taken a river boat, oh my God, it is insane. I'm a big nature sucker, but Jalen Walker, I think it's disingenuous to say he would be here. I'm not going to take him for that reason. Jahad Campbell, it is what it is, but to me, I'm like JT Tuimoloau would be an excellent selection here as well. I just know there are guys at 93 and 110 that I think would be really solid edges for this team. And I don't see that with the wide receiver class. I don't see true X-build receivers like Jack Besh, who I do have as a top 10 player in the class. And if I'm just going to be completely frank, he should be number 4 on my board. And I decided to eliminate positional value that I gave other receivers because it was I got to hold myself back. But we're going to go after Besh here because 6'2", 215, and nobody has any issues with his personality at all, which is huge. That's a big win. But on top of that, he is genuinely you look at the drop rate, 1.6 this year, contested catch rate 65. But this dude is just rock solid. And back in I think 2021, he led LSU, if I'm not mistaken, in receiving yards and touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. It was ridiculous. Malik Neighbors, if I'm not mistaken, Brian Thomas Jr. as well. He ended up performing, and again, that might have been 2022, but he outperformed legit top-end weapons. This dude is a really good player. And I hate the fact that, I watched him in person multiple times, and I thought he was great, but I just didn't focus on him the way I should, and I wish I did. But at 71, I told you guys, I telegraphed the move I'm going to do. And yes, in the real draft, you don't really get this projection where you're like, oh, I kind of know who's going to be where. To a certain degree, you do. But there's a little bit more variability because every team has a different order, and it's not based on Trev's board. But Anthony Belton's going to be my selection here. You look at him, 6'6", 336, but he's a mauler, and he was one of the most impressive tackles at the Senior Bowl. So I honestly think he's an absolute slam dunk. He took reps at right tackle as well, so he can be left or right tackle versatile. I'd prefer to put Tolly back at right, but if you say, hey, we got left tackle that we don't have to worry about, we're going to rather test Belton at right and see what happens, I'm all game. I'm going to be going after Belton right there. So we went very offensive heavy with the first 3 picks, and do not fret. We're going to be focusing on the defense now. So at 93, we're looking at the board. You got Kyman Rucker here, who I think is fantastic. Really good player. You look at that, his statistics are off the chart, back-to-back years with incredible production, especially when you end up realizing, whoa, from 1 to 6, he wasn't even in? Yeah, he genuinely did not play very many games this year and still came away with 6 sacks and was an absolute monster. And he was a top 64 guy for me before this year. There's been no North Carolina All-22 tape like, unfortunately, I don't work with the big agencies, so I don't have true media or anything like that. So I work with what I have. I have very solid quantities of resources for, what you'd expect for not being part of an NFL office or part of a big sports agency. But there's certain things where it's limited. And, I'm not going to ever grade a player outside of all 22 anymore. I think that the quality control I get from being able to see multiple angles, slowing it down to the frame by frame, it is invaluable. And it has allowed me to study players on a whole new level to where I feel like I know them so much better than just watching standard game tape. And it's great to watch standard game tape if you're not doing this for air quotes a living, right? Because technically I have another job. But regardless, Kyman Rucker was fantastic. I mean, he's somebody who deserves a ton of love. And, he had a little bit of struggle versus Georgia Tech. Look at that. He bounced right back versus Virginia. And this dude has just been absolutely rock solid. So I don't really get that personally. I don't get why he's so much lower on people's boards. I absolutely think he should be focused on as one of these selections. And I honestly don't think it would be a bad idea to double up on edge, right? Let's review our depth chart for defense here. I mean, he would work as a solid defensive end, and the thing is he can drop into coverage as well. So I love the fact that you can use him as a versatile piece. And yeah, you could bring back some dudes in free agency. Excuse me, got a hiccup right there. Foskey's still developing, but I wasn't a big Foskey guy. But the guy who I'm looking at right now is Femi Oladejo. This dude is the best run defending edge in the class. 6'3", he's 261. He's not 250. He weighed in 261 at the Senior Bowl, and he was unbelievable. He is right now well into my top 100. Where the hell is he, by the way? You guys are going to see some spoilers for my wide receiver video on Saturday, so cover your eyes in case you don't want to do that. But he's sitting there at 96 on my board. Perfect range for him to be. But he is a former linebacker, guys. Former linebacker. Look at that. Like before this, 148 reps on the line. So this is a brand new edge rusher, and he did so damn well. And the thing I love the most is as he continued training as a pure edge in the offseason, he got better and better. So I'm going to go after Femi Oladejo here. 261 works perfectly with Brandon Staley's defense. And, very, very high value asset, no doubt. Yeah, I could have ended up waiting and playing the big brain game and, got Dion Walker and all that stuff. But I think, again, it's disingenuous for a player who's definitely going to be going in that range. At pick number 110, I'm looking heavily into Jamari Caldwell here. And it's good to see, like, this board has been updated since my other 7-round mock drafts. Jamari Caldwell was in the 200s. This dude's fantastic. I mean, he really is. 6'1" in that 340-pound range. He has crazy leverage, but he is unbelievably explosive. And when you look at, you're not going to ever get a Jalen Carter, right? That's just not going to happen, especially at this range. But you look at the defense that you can model from Philadelphia. Kellen Moore is going to understand the value of quick interior pressure, whether it was Moro Ajomo, Milton Williams, Jalen Carter. There is going to be that emphasis on that production. And Aeneas Peoples is the guy who is the quick penetrator, and this could technically be the Milton Williams on this defense. But again, you got Brandon Staley here. Do you want to go after a 290-pound defensive interior? I love Peoples to death. And the glory of these mock drafts is, you can end up saying, okay, well, I don't want Caldwell. I'd rather have Peoples. That's not going to affect how I draft at all in this range. And to be fair, the PFF simulator isn't that robust to where it would be like, oh, well, I'm going to value the size over, Aeneas. So we're going to end up having him slip very far. It will end up taking him where Jamari Caldwell would have went. So this is going to be a defensive interior pick to me. Again, we could look at the corners, to be fair. You got Noel Williams here, who I think works really well, but I want to target Quincy Riley next. I haven't done that in a hot second. I think he deserves a lot of love. Training out here in Dallas, Texas. I'm going to be going after Jamari Caldwell. Again, crazy athleticism for his size, and those high-level reps are just to die for. Antoine Powell-Ryland to Philadelphia is an excellent fit. I think he works very well in Vic Fangio's system. And not that it's applicable to this, but still, I just saw that. I'm like, I fully approve. So just to review what's happened, we've revamped the weapons on this team with Warren and Besh. Got ourselves our future offensive tackle, whether that be left or right, and Anthony Belton. Got ourselves a high floor run defending edge rusher with ridiculous ceiling as a pass rusher, and Femi Oladejo. And then got ourselves a quick gap penetrating defensive interior that also can plug up the middle. To me, this is arguably one of my favorite mock drafts that I've done so far. especially when you don't factor in the quarterbacks, because the quarterbacks could easily like shift things. But looking at the defensive backs available, I love Zy Alexander as a safety. Like, I love him as a safety in terms of like day two, kind of like late day two, kind of love him as a safety. But Quincy Riley has my heart. He's been playing injured the entire year. The entire year. I talked to his uncle. This is how I know. Like, ended up sitting next to his uncle on a plane back from Mobile. And so shout out to Marlon. But like, Marlon was telling me, like, dude, this guy's incredible. He won Defensive Back of the Week in Mobile with first round players there. So I'll just say that Quincy Riley is an absolute dog, and he has great ball skills. And the thing is, I heard from some people who were very close to him at the event, I will not name said source, out of love for my guy, but he ended up saying Quincy Riley was the dude who was the most coachable as well. And so he's going to go higher than this. So out of respect, I'm going to take him at 129 to be that boundary corner too, because I think you absolutely could snipe him if he does end up slipping that far. So 183. We went on an offensive swing and a defensive swing. Let's review what we need to get. So we already addressed some defensive line needs. We already got some corner as well. Defensive back, you absolutely should be looking for some help here. Maybe you can get some depth at the slot as well, but looking for a box safety behind Howden or even potentially to compete to be ahead of him, to me would be arguably priority number one. We absolutely should be getting some extra linebacker help in here as well. And let's end up looking at who is available, right? Talked about safety, talked about linebacker as well. I love RJ Mickens. I've taken him in enough mock drafts though. Out of respect, not going to do it. Jay Higgins is someone who I think would absolutely be a great will linebacker. He's a little bit undersized. Same thing with Jamon Dumas Johnson and Smile Munden. So good group of guys. Bottom line, great group of guys. Jay Higgins is super high floor. And the thing is, he's not, I would not take Higgins to replace Willie Gay. I'd prefer for him to replace Demario Davis, if that makes any sense. So I don't know. Maybe you can end up getting, like, I would prefer someone a little more athletic like Jamon Dumas Johnson to replace Willie Gay based on the athletic and physical profile. So that's where my head's at for that group of guys right there. I talked about the box safety again. RJ Mickens, like, kind of my dream, but getting Dan Jackson at 250 potentially would be kind of the dream there as well. That'd be the way that I would approach the situation. We still could absolutely go after interior offensive line depth as well. Miles Frazier is here, and I honestly would address linebacker and free agency at this point. Like, don't fuck around. When we can end up getting great value like Jackson Slater or Miles Frazier here, both these guys are really, really good. Excellent depth, and Miles Frazier took right tackle reps in the Senior Bowl as well, which I love. Did not allow a sack this year, if I'm not mistaken, as well, which is great. And so that's going to be someone who I'm going to have as a high priority backup offensive lineman with even some higher level potential right there. So again, let's do a quick little review so you guys end up seeing exactly who we've taken. We've reinforced the offensive line, got some weaponry, and reinforced the defensive line with a high level corner pick. Shout out to Tyler Shuck. I think he's going to be rising up big time throughout the process. But if you're looking at a potential safety here, I could go after my boy Mac McWilliams. He's a top 40 player on my board. Maybe he's number 41 now. Where is he at? He's number 41. Oh, no. Okay, I need to move up so you guys don't get to see all the spoilers at wide receiver. But, he's my number 41 player. It is what it is. I'm not going to take him for this team. Just going to be honest there. Out of love. And of course, we end up losing out on Dan Jackson to the Giants. I'm not going to reach on Shiloh necessarily here. Like, Shiloh does have, like, his starting grade. I don't know if I have him still in here. It was in the top 100, but he ended up being boosted because it was, like, in the 150 range coming into the year. And I haven't regraded the safety class fully yet, including himself, but he would end up dropping quite a bit. So, like, Shiloh is somebody, I mean, hell, you are in the 7th round. Feel free to select whoever you want to select here, okay? Like, that's the bottom line. Ooh, Johnny Walker, though. Johnny Walker's good. He was a Shrine Bowl standout. And you know what? At his size, isn't he like the 260 range? Yeah, 255. I like that. I haven't given a lot of love to Johnny Walker. We're going to give Johnny Walker some love. And then we still end up being able to go after a defensive back here. Let this be whatever pick that you want. I'll go after Shedeur Sanders for the name and the big hitting ability. So that is going to be our video today. We got, for a quick recap, we got some firepower here with Warren and Besh. We ended up fixing up some offensive line help with Belton and Frazier. Arguably, both could start if need be. Defensive line-wise, we got Walker, Caldwell, and Oladejo. Walker, more of a pass rushing specialist. Oladejo, more of a run defending specialist at the moment. And Caldwell, a great gap penetrator. And then we ended up getting some defensive back help with Shiloh and Quincy. I love how this ended up turning out. Honestly, I didn't really think that it would. I would have loved Dan Jackson at 251 than, Johnny Walker. But, worst case scenario, we ended up still getting a Sanders last name who has that big hitting capability. I hope you guys did enjoy, though. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the far side. Peace.